He really thought he could mail himself to freedom. A blurry figure glides outside a church, but there's a problem. It has no legs, and this guy decided setting himself on fire wasn't enough. So he did it on a motorcycle. What is actually happening out there? Let's get into it. Welcome back to Brain Bark's Top 15 that proves reality is stranger than fiction. This isn't your typical news program. We sift through the internet's most bizarre and unbelievable stories to bring you a countdown of the absolute weirdest things that happened this week. And we're not just giving you the headlines. For every single story, we found a mind-blowing fact that adds a completely new layer to the insanity. This week, we've got 15 stories that will make you rethink everything, from a top chef who serves fine dining from a bicycle to a dance trend that has people farming for aura, all the way to a truly baffling comment from Donald Trump that you have to hear to believe. Things are about to get strange. Let's start the countdown. Number 15, gourmet chef on a bike, a rolling fine dining experience. Kicking things off at number 15, we're in Copenhagen, Denmark, for a story that gives a whole new meaning to meals on wheels, forget food trucks. A Danish chef named Morten Krieger Wolf has turned his bicycle into a portable fine dining kitchen. And this isn't just a hot dog stand on two wheels. Wolf's custom cargo bike weighs over 280 pounds and is kitted out with a fridge, a gas burner, and a foldable workspace he designed himself. He leads guests on a food tour of the city, stopping at scenic spots to cook up multi-course meals like grilled seaweed and Nordic pizza. Imagine biking along a beautiful canal and then stopping for a gourmet plate of seafood, cooked right there in front of you. Wolf says the city itself is part of the menu, and it's a perfect example of a new trend in high-end, mobile food adventures. But here's the wild part. If you ever do a tour like this, the bike ride isn't just for sightseeing. The mind-blowing fact is that light exercise right before you eat can actually make your food taste better. A brisk walk or bike ride can boost your appetite and trigger the release of endorphins, your body's feel-good chemicals, which genuinely enhances how you perceive flavor. So that incredible meal isn't just your imagination, it's science. Coming in at number 14 is proof that a local tradition can become an internet sensation overnight. It started in Rio, Indonesia, during the historic Baku Jalur Boat Festival. A teenager named Ryan Arkandika, or Dicker, went viral for his incredible aura farming dance. While standing on the bow of a racing boat, Dika did this wild, ecstatic dance, flailing his arms with an intense rhythm. He was in traditional clothes, and the moves weren't just for show, they were meant to hype up his teammates and push them toward victory. The tradition itself is centuries old, but a clip of Dika's performance just exploded on TikTok and Instagram. Suddenly, aura farming was popping up everywhere. The name, which is borrowed from anime and celebrity culture, means doing something on purpose to look cool and attract attention, basically, to harvest good energy or aura. The trend took off, with influencers and even major sports teams like Paris Saint-Germain and NFL star Travis Kelce seen recreating the dance. This kid from a local festival in Indonesia had accidentally created a massive meme, turning a centuries-old ritual into the internet's latest obsession. And here's the crazy thing. There's actual science behind why this might really work. It's not just about looking cool. Studies have shown that when people move in sync, like dancing or rowing together, it dramatically increases group bonding and cooperation. This is called collective effervescence, and it can create a real feeling of unity and power. So when the rowers said Dika's dance made them feel superpowered, they weren't just imagining it. That synchronized energy may have given them a genuine mental and physical boost. At number 13, we have a story that honestly feels like it was written for a movie. Way back in 2012, a couple threw a message in a bottle into the ocean off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada. It was just a sweet, romantic gesture, a note sent out into the world with no real expectation that anyone would ever find it. Then, 13 years and nearly 2,000 miles later, That same bottle washed up on a beach in Kerry, Ireland. The Irish couple who found it were so taken by the note that they decided to try and find the people who wrote it. They posted a picture of it online, and the internet did its thing. The post went viral and eventually found its way back to the original senders. The couple from Newfoundland, who were now married, were floored to see their long-lost message pop up over a decade later, connecting them with strangers an entire ocean away. It's an amazing story of random connection, but here's the truly mind-blowing fact. While 13 years seems like a long time, it's nothing compared to the world record. The oldest message in a bottle ever found drifted in the ocean for an unbelievable 132 years. It was tossed from a German ship into the Indian Ocean in 1886 and was found on a beach in Western Australia in 2018. It just proves you never know how long your message will travel, or when it will finally find a shore. Get ready for our number 12 story, which takes us to a historic church in Venezuela. Two friends were outside the Iglesia La Ermita del Carmen in Barcelona when they filmed something deeply unsettling. A mysterious, dark figure seemed to be gliding smoothly across the ground in front of the church. But as they zoomed in, they realized something was very wrong. The figure, dressed in what looked like a long robe, had no legs. It just floated, its lower half completely gone. The creepy video was posted online and, as you'd expect, it kicked off a huge debate. Was this actual proof of a ghost haunting the old church? Or was it just a clever trick of the light or a digital fake? Believers were convinced they were looking at a spirit, while skeptics searched for a logical reason for the legless phantom. The footage is still a mystery, leaving thousands of viewers completely baffled. But here's a fact that might explain why so many people's minds went straight to ghost. It turns out, our brains are kind of wired for it. Nearly half of all Americans believe in ghosts, and about 1 in 5 claim they've personally seen one. Psychologists say that when we're scared or anxious, our brains are much more likely to interpret ambiguous things, like shadows or weird shapes, as something supernatural. It's a mental shortcut that can turn a rustling curtain into a ghost, or in this case, a strange figure into a legless spirit. From ghosts to aliens, our number 11 spot is another story of viral paranormal panic, this time from Mazamitla, Mexico. A shaky phone video started making the rounds online that seemed to show something truly out of this world. In the video, a strange, round head with big, dark eyes peeks out from behind a car, hangs there for a second, and then ducks back. A moment later, it pops up from a different spot, like it's playing a terrifying game of peekaboo. The video went viral instantly, getting millions of views and starting a firestorm of arguments. Some viewers were totally convinced this was the real deal or genuine alien caught on camera. Others figured it was just a well-edited fake or maybe even a supernatural creature from local folklore. But scientists have a much more down-to-earth explanation for what might be going on, and that brings us to our mind-blowing fact, pareidolia. Pareidolia is a fascinating psychological phenomenon where our brains are hardwired to see patterns, especially faces, in random things. It's why we see faces in the clouds, animals in wood grain, or the man in the moon. Our brains are so eager to spot a face that they'll create one even when it's not really there. So, was it an alien playing peekaboo? Or was it just our own brains playing tricks on us? At number 10 is a reminder that nature has a serious sense of humor. In Mentor-on-the-Lake, Ohio, people started seeing a local white-tailed deer sporting a very strange accessory. A large, tree-style bird feeder was stuck right on one of its antlers, making it look like the deer was wearing a ridiculous, wide-brimmed hat. The police were called, but every time they got close, the deer would just playfully run off, apparently not bothered at all by its new headgear. Officials said the deer wasn't in any pain and was seen frolicking with its family and eating normally. It became a local celebrity, a fashionable buck wandering town with a bird feeder for a hat. The authorities decided to just leave it alone, figuring the feeder would eventually fall off or come loose when the deer sheds its antlers later in the year. For now, this well-fed deer is still out there, serving looks and confusing everyone it meets. Those antlers are impressive enough, but here is a mind-blowing fact about them. Antlers are one of the most incredible structures in the entire animal kingdom because they are the fastest-growing tissue of any mammal. During their peak growth in the summer, a deer's antlers can grow up to 2 centimeters a day. This unbelievable rate of bone generation is a biological marvel, making the deer's ability to grow and shed these things even more amazing than its questionable fashion choices. We've all been there. You're at an arcade, staring at a claw machine, desperate for that one prize that seems impossible to get. Well, at number 9, a little boy in Mason, Ohio, decided to cut out the middleman. Security cameras at a community center caught the moment the kid walked up to a claw machine, saw his chance, and just climbed right into the prize chute head first. 1 second he's outside, the next he's vanished into a world of stuffed animals, totally stuck inside the glass box. People quickly spotted him and got help from the staff, who wheeled the machine into a back room. First responders were called, and they managed to free the uninjured boy by taking the machine apart. Once he was out, he was reunited with his mom, in a moment of pure victory, was seen hugging the exact prize he'd launched his daring mission to get. No charges were filed, and the boy became a local legend. His successful break-in is impressive enough, but the mind-blowing fact about how these machines actually work makes his stunt even more incredible. Claw machines aren't games of skill. The owner can often program the claw to have a super weak grip that will only fully grab a prize after a certain number of paid tries. The machine's programming determines the claw's strength, often making it loosen just enough to drop the toy right before it gets to the chute. This means the boy didn't just break into the machine. He outsmarted a system designed to be nearly impossible to beat. Our number 8 story is an escape, so wild it sounds like it was pulled from a cartoon. In a prison near Lyon, France, a 20-year-old inmate staged one of the boldest getaways you'll ever hear about. He didn't dig a tunnel or start a riot. Instead, he just needed a piece of luggage. When his cellmate was set to be released, the inmate saw his opening. He managed to fold himself up and hide inside his cellmate's big suitcase. Somehow, the cellmate then just walked out of the prison, rolling the suitcase with the fugitive inside right past the guards without anyone noticing. By the time the authorities figured out what had happened, the suitcase fugitive, as he's being called, was long gone. An investigation was immediately launched, and a manhunt is now on for the incredibly flexible escape artist. This bizarre escape has left prison officials scrambling for answers, wondering how someone could be smuggled out in such a simple, yet brilliant, way. You've got to have some serious flexibility to pull that off, and that brings up a wild fact. While we don't know how long it took the prisoner to get into that bag, there is an official world record for the fastest time to pack oneself into a suitcase. Contortionist Leslie Tipton holds the Guinness World Record for zipping herself into a suitcase in an amazing 5.43 seconds. It's a strange skill, but for one prisoner in France, it was the key to freedom. Alright, we are at the halfway point, and believe me, the stories only get weirder from here. We're talking about bears crashing a concert, a Baywatch-style deer rescue, and a daredevil who literally sets himself on fire to break a world record. If you're enjoying this weekly dose of weirdness, do us a huge favor and hit that subscribe button right now. That way, you won't miss what the world throws at us next week. Okay, let's get back to it. Coming in at number 7, we're at the legendary Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, a place known for its amazing natural acoustics and, it seems, its music-loving wildlife. Fans were lining up for a concert when they were joined by a couple of unexpected guests, two black bears. The bears just casually strolled past the crowd, seemingly unfazed by all the people. According to people there, the bears were very relaxed and even playful, showing no signs of aggression. They wandered through the area, checked everything out, and then eventually moseyed back into the park without any trouble. Red Rock's officials used it as a chance to remind everyone that as an outdoor venue, they get fans of all species and to never approach the wildlife. It seems even the local bears couldn't resist a live show at one of the world's most famous music venues. So what brought the bears to the show? Was it the music? Well, the mind-blowing fact is it was probably something else entirely. Black bears have an unbelievably powerful sense of smell. It's estimated that a black bear can smell food from over 20 miles away. While we hope the concert-goers weren't the food they smelled, it's more likely they were drawn in by all the snacks from the thousands of people gathered in one place. Either that, or they're just really big fans of the opening act. At number 6, we have a rescue so dramatic it felt like a scene from an action movie starring animals. At Flagler Beach, Florida, lifeguards saw something really unusual in the water: a deer struggling to keep its head up in the rough surf, way out from the shore. To make things even crazier, people on the beach said sharks were circling nearby, adding a whole new level of terror to the situation. Without hesitating, two lifeguards, Chase Hunter and Leo Peters, jumped into action. Hunter paddled out on a rescue board through the strong waves and got to the exhausted, terrified deer. He managed to pull the animal onto his board while Peters swam next to them to help push them back. The deer was apparently screaming so loudly that one of the lifeguards thought it was his partner. After a huge effort, they got the deer safely to the beach, where a crowd of stunned people applauded. The deer, after taking a moment to recover, got up and walked off, back to its much drier home. A deer in the ocean surrounded by sharks sounds like a death sentence, but here's a mind-blowing fact you probably didn't know: deer are excellent swimmers. They are surprisingly at home in the water and have been known to swim for miles between islands or across huge lakes. Wildlife experts have seen deer swim far as 5 miles offshore. While this deer was clearly in trouble, its natural swimming ability is probably what kept it alive long enough for the lifeguards to pull off their heroic rescue. Our number 5 story from India is a wild warning to be careful who you trust your jewelry with. A man went to a mystic hoping to get a blessing for good fortune. The ritual required the man's gold ring. The fortune teller performed some chants, and then, in what was supposed to be a moment of magic, he swallowed the man's ring right in front of him. The mystic calmly told the man this was all part of the plan. He claimed that through his powerful magic, the ring had been spiritually transported and it would magically reappear at the man's house later that day. The man, probably very confused, went home to wait. To no one's surprise, the ring never showed up. When he went back to confront the mystic, both the fortune teller and the gold ring were long gone. It's a scam so bold you almost have to respect it. But it does make you wonder, what actually happens when you swallow a ring? Well, here's a slightly terrifying fact. Human stomach acid is incredibly strong. With a pH between 1.5 and 3.5, it's powerful enough to do serious damage to many metals. While gold is pretty resistant, studies have shown that stomach acid can completely dissolve a double-edged razor blade in about 2 hours. So, while this scammer likely had other plans for the ring, he was in a race against his own digestive system. At number 4, we have a prank that went so far it blurred the line between hilarious and chaotic. In Arizona, a group of pranksters decided to pull one on a local auto shop. They dressed up in full mechanic gear, walked into the garage like they worked there, and just started working on customers' cars. They were popping hoods, checking tires, and talking to car owners with total confidence, while the real employees and the shop's owner just watched in complete confusion. The owner, stunned by the sudden arrival of a whole new, unsolicited team of mechanics, realized something was very wrong and called the cops, but these pranksters were fast. Before the police could get there to sort out the mess, the fake mechanics dropped their tools, ditched their uniforms and disappeared, leaving behind a garage full of confused customers and a very frustrated owner. It was a perfectly executed, if totally insane, prank that left an entire auto shop asking, "What just happened?" It was total chaos, but you have to admit, it's pretty funny. And our mind-blowing fact gets at the very reason why a good prank feels so good to the pranksters. Anyway, when we laugh, our brains release a flood of endorphins. These are the same chemicals released during exercise or when you eat chocolate, and they create feelings of pleasure and act as the body's natural painkillers. So that giddy, thrilling feeling you get from a successful prank is a literal chemical high. For these Arizona jokers, that high was clearly worth the risk. Coming in at number 3 is one of those headlines that generated more facepalms than laughs. In a public statement, President Donald Trump congratulated the president of Liberia, a nation in West Africa. He praised the leader for his country's success and then, in a very strange moment, complimented him on his excellent English. While that might sound like a nice thing to say, it showed a shocking lack of basic history. The comment went viral as people pointed out how deeply ironic and uninformed it was. Why? Because English isn't some newly learned second language for Liberia. It's been the country's official language for 200 years. Liberia was founded in 1822 by freed American slaves who brought the English language with them. The entire country's government and school systems are built on it. Praising Liberia for speaking English is like congratulating the United States on using the dollar. And that brings us to the simple, yet apparently mind-blowing, fact of this story. Liberia's official language has always been English. Since it became a republic in 1847, English has been the language of its government, business, and schools. The whole incident was a very public reminder that a little bit of historical context goes a long way. Our runner-up for the weirdest story of the week comes from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, where a local group is putting a very bold spin on a classic hobby. A naturist group called the Pittsburgh Area Naturalists hosted an event called Balls Out Bowling, and it is exactly what it sounds like. It was a nude bowling night, where the only required clothing was bowling shoes and a towel to sit on. The event, held at Kraft and Ingram Lanes, was meant to promote body positivity and community among local naturists. The organizers made it clear it was a non-sexual event, with strict rules against photos and harassment to make sure everyone was comfortable. For $30, people got for hours of unlimited bowling in the buff. Suddenly, the term bowling balls has a few new meanings. Now, while the idea might seem strange to some, supporters of naturism point to a mind-blowing fact. Numerous studies and reports from naturist communities suggest that non-sexual social nudity can have real psychological benefits. It's been linked to a better body image, higher self-esteem, and greater happiness overall. The idea is that by removing the focus on clothes and social status, it creates a more accepting, less judgmental space that helps people have a healthier relationship with their own bodies. And finally, at number 1, we have the most jaw-dropping, flat-out insane story of the week. Jonathan Vero, a French firefighter and professional stuntman, decided to combine two of the most dangerous things you can do, being on fire and riding a motorcycle. Dressed in a special flame-retardant suit, Vero was set completely on fire and then hopped on his motorcycle to try and break a Guinness World Record. While completely engulfed in flames, he rode for an incredible 1,450 feet, shattering the previous record for the farthest distance full-body burn while riding a motorcycle. The video is terrifying and amazing, showing a real-life ghost rider blazing down a track before his team safely put him out. This wasn't his first time playing with fire either. Vero already holds world records for the fastest 100-meter sprint and the longest run while on fire without oxygen. He said he was inspired by the comic book character and did it to show his kids that their dad was a champion. This stunt is almost impossible to wrap your head around, and our mind-blowing fact really puts into perspective how deadly it was. The flames around Jonathan Vero's body likely reached temperatures of around 800 degrees Celsius or 172 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, direct exposure would cause severe, third-degree burns in just seconds. Vero's survival came down to his incredible expertise as a firefighter, his years of stunt training, and the advanced, multi-layered protective gear he was wearing. It was a calculated dance with death that pushed the absolute limits of human endurance. And that's a wrap on another week of absolute madness. From ore-farming dancers to daredevils on fire, it's clear the world never stops being weird. For me, the prisoner escaping in a suitcase is one of the most unbelievable things I've ever heard. But what about you? What was your favorite story from this week's countdown? Which one completely broke your brain? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Thanks for sticking with us through all the insanity. If you want more stories that make you say what, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a weekly roundup. And while you're at it, check out the video we did last week. We promise it's just as strange. We'll see you next time. Stay weird.